Alright, Unit 9, Anthropology, 9.1, Anthropology Basics. Alright, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these slides, ultimately because you actually are going to need to print these out and study them more in depth personally. So we're just going to go through some of the basic information, and I will trust that you will commit this information to memory at your own pace. So what is forensic anthropology? This is just going to be the study of remains, specifically the remains of the human skeleton, in various stages of decomposition. So as we're looking at the skeleton, we're not only looking just for the skeletonized remains, but also sometimes the badly decomposed remains. And we've already done some work with the human body after death, and so you have an understanding already of how the body decays and the phases of decomposition it goes through. This might be a good opportunity to go back and review the stages of decomposition as well, to make sure that you are refreshed on that. From a full or partial bone, there's a whole lot of information that can be determined from this. Age, sex, race, height, and then possible cause of death, diseases, anomalies, things like that. You will learn how to do the first four of these things. So osteology is another term that we use. Osteology, osteo, coming from the root word which means bones, and logi comes from the Greek root word which means to study. So the study of bones, there are 206 bones in the human body. Anytime you get a number, it's important to know the number, 206. Good test question there. Also, you need to know the function of bones. So some of the obvious: it provides structure, protects soft tissues, and allows things to attach to it. Something you might not know or might not remember is it is actually the production site of red blood cells in the body, and it can actually store minerals. The storage of minerals, this is why one of those reasons when you drink too much pop, the pop actually removes calcium from your body, which is stored in your bones and can cause brittle bones. So excessive consumption of soft drinks is a problem for your bones. And then ultimately it can serve to partially help filter your blood, as heavy metals actually will settle in your bones. So too much heavy metal exposure will actually cause cancer in your bones because of those toxic heavy metals. Alright, you need to know the difference between bones and cartilage, which may seem obvious. Both are going to be networks of proteins. Just the difference is that bones are going to be very solid and rigid, where cartilage is going to be tough and flexible. But important to know that they are living. Bones are not dead. They are actually a living part of your body, often considered an organ in and of themselves. And then this process of ossification, which is going to be really important to you as we start looking at age. This is a process that converts basically cartilage to bone. So ossification is the hardening up of that cartilage into bone. All right, I also want you to know the structure of a bone. So you have three basic layers of a bone. You have compact, spongy, and then the marrow on the inside. I'm not going to go too much more in depth on this, but just suffice it to say, compact is going to be the very rigid outer structure of the bone. The spongy bone is going to be what's filled, and this actually has all the blood vessels. The reason it looks spongy is actually because it's full of blood vessels. And then the internal area is going to be the marrow, and that's the filling. Actually, highly nutritious bone marrow. Not in humans, but in other organisms. A survival scenario is to always preserve bone marrow because it's one of the most nutritious parts of an organism. Anyway, the difference is red versus yellow. Red blood marrow is what actually makes red blood cells, hence the red. Yellow is comprised mostly of lipids and fats. Alright, there are 20 basic bones that I would require that you know. Each one of these is going to be referenced in some way at some point through our discussions and the things that we do here. So you need to know all 20. So pause it right now, fill in some of the bones that you already know, and then when you have gone through, we're going to flip on to the next slide, which is going to give us those answers. All right, so top to bottom we have the skull, the mandible, also called the jawbone. Clavicle, that's the collarbone. The sternum is going to be holding your ribs together in the center part of your chest, right there. The humerus, number 5, is going to be the top of the arm. It's kind of a little out of order here. The ribs are going to be, obviously, you know the ribs. Vertebral column is made up of vertebrae. This is your spine. Pelvis. Now, the radius and the ulna often get confused. Those are the parts of the forearm. The radius is the top bone. If you're going to give a thumbs up, the radius is the top bone. The ulna, think of ulna U for under. Okay? Great handwriting. Ulna U for under is the lower of the two bones when you're giving that thumbs up. So that's the ulna. Inside the wrist, you have the carpals. And then the hand itself is metacarpals, and then the fingers are called phalanges. Down to the leg, we have the femur, strongest bone in the human body. The patella is the kneecap. Tibia and fibula. I get so irritated when people say tibia and fibia. There is no such thing as a fibia. Tibia and fibula. But the way that I recommend remembering this is that a fib is a small lie, and the fibula is the smaller of the two bones. In the ankle, then, you have tarsals. The foot itself is metatarsals, and the toes are called phalanges. So 20 bones that you must know. All right, I also expect you to know the different types of joints and how those joints move. It's very important in the field of forensics. So you need to know the difference between a hinge and a ball and socket versus a pivot or a gliding, conoloid, and a saddle. So take a minute and review these. Manipulate your own body, as you see in the images, and identify those places, because I may ask you a shoulder as an example of which type of joint, or something like that. So please be aware of that. Again, a lot of this is just studying on your own. All right, and then the last major content point is that you do need to know the difference between a tendon and a bone. Interesting way to remember it. A tendon gets tender when you work out, okay? Ligaments do not. So tendons deal with muscle connected to bone. Ligaments are just bone to bone, okay? They link bone to bone. So just going to be important. We're going to talk about the, sometimes you look at the fusion site of a particular tendon or a ligament, and it's just important to know the function of that. And finally, for your enjoyment, have a good night.